This is a prophecy which goes back to the Old Testament again, to Psalm 22. And it depends on how you interpret it. There's between 6 or 7 parallels between the 22nd Psalm and the 27th chapter of Matthew, even though we're reading now at the moment from John. Upon my vesture they cast lots. Again, we say it might have been possible for a really psychological seer to anticipate that ordinary sinful people would put to death a real righteous man who came among them. But to predict the manner of his death, which was not familiar to them, crucifixion, and to predict a detail such as gambling for his garments and the parting of those garments among them is beyond the power of any psychological seer. And this prophecy was made between 700 and 900 years, maybe 1,000 years before the event. And for those of us who are believers, this is one of the great proofs of the fact that Jesus fulfilled the Old Testament prophecy, and the Old Testament prophecy pointed ahead to Jesus himself. We'll read verse 35 through verse 38 of Luke 23.
And the people stood by watching, but the rulers scoffed at him, saying, He saved others, let him save himself. If he is the Christ of God, his chosen one. The soldiers also mocked him, coming up and offering him vinegar and saying, If you are the King of the Jews, save yourself.
This is also a fulfillment of prophecy back in the 22nd Psalm. He saved others, let him save himself is also there, and that they went by and jeered at him and ridiculed him is also in that same psalm. We're going to go back now to Matthew 27, and we're going to pick up verse 37, and we'll be with this for some time here. Will you please read down through verse 40 at this time, bud?
And over his head they put the charge against him, which read, This is Jesus, the King of the Jews. Then 2 robbers were crucified with him, one on the right and one on the left. And those who passed by derided him, wagging their heads and saying, You who would destroy the temple and build it in 3 days, save yourself. If you are the Son of God, come on down from the cross.
Now, again we point out that the same treatment was given to Jesus as being too good, and to the 2 thieves as being too evil. Society deviates from their standard or their normal level, whether you're too good or too evil. We have again the fulfillment of prophecy, another prophecy in Psalm 22, and they said, If you're the Son of God, come down from the cross and save yourself. He saved others, let him save himself. Verse 41 down through verse 44.
So also the chief priests with the scribes and elders mocked him, saying, He saved others, he cannot save himself. He is the King of Israel. Let him come down now from the cross, and we will believe in him. He trusts in God. Let God deliver him now, if he desires him. For he said, I am the Son of God. And the robbers who were crucified with him also reviled him in the same way.
Verse 42 is true. He saved others, he cannot save himself. He can't do both. My salvation depends upon Jesus not saving himself. He did not deserve to die, I did. He did not deserve crucifixion, I did. He was right with God, I was not. He could not save me without taking my place and becoming legally a sinner and taking the penalty which was due to me for my sins. At first, the 2 thieves shared in the ridiculing of Jesus. But one of them changed his mind. We find this story in Luke 23, verses 35 following, through verse 43.
One of the criminals who were hanged railed at him, saying, Are you not the Christ? Save yourself and us. But the other rebuked him, saying, Do you not fear God, since you are under the same sentence of condemnation? And we indeed justly, for we are receiving the due rewards of our deed. But this man has done nothing wrong. And he said, Jesus, remember me when you come into your kingly power. And he said to him, Truly I say to you, today you will be with me in paradise.
This, of course, is the classic passage that is used in dealing with deathbed conversions. It is possible for man to be saved at the last moment. Not every man who postpones salvation is fortunate enough to spend those last moments in the presence of Jesus. Apparently there's a change of mind here, and this conversation is unknown. It's not recorded. What happened between the last verses, in which the one thief was joining in the reviling and the ridiculing of Jesus, and all of a sudden a change occurs, and he turns to Jesus and he says, I want to be remembered when you come in your kingdom. And Jesus took him at the last moment and said, friend, you don't have long to wait. Today, both of us, in a short time, will be together in paradise. What a conclusion for a life of thievery, robbery, murder that characterized this man. Friends, if there was hope for him, if there should be somebody out there in our audience that has had an unsavory past, and you think you've gone too far for the grace of God, the answer is no, you've not. God can save you now by giving your heart to Him. And we commend you into the hands of the loving Savior who accepted the thief on the cross in the closing hours of his life. We now find in John 19, verse 25 following, that Jesus makes provision for his mother Mary. And will you read, please?
But standing by the cross of Jesus were his mother and his mother's sister, Mary, the wife of Clopas, and Mary Magdalene. When Jesus saw his mother and the disciple whom he loved standing near, he said to his mother, Woman, behold your son. Then he said to the disciple, Behold your mother. And from that hour the disciple took her to his own home.
We find here now that the disciples have, most of them are not here, but John, who was with him in the trial, the praetorium, is also here now with him with the cross. He ran away once, but having come back, he stays with Jesus to the end. Jesus turns the care of Mary over to him and turns John over to be his mother's adopted son. Joseph is not mentioned here. In fact, after the episode at the age of 12, Joseph is no longer mentioned. It is therefore assumed that Jesus became the main support of his family in the carpenter shop after the death of Joseph, somewhere when Jesus was staying at home during the 18 years of obscurity. And now Joseph is gone. The other disciples, the other brethren of Jesus, are not yet converted, and his mother is. And so he turns him over to his disciple John to take care of his mother. This, of course, is one of the 7 last sentences or words from the cross.